Hello and welcome to Watch Me, where you'll find reviews, tips and tricks on watches. Here I have with me the Tudor Heritage Chronograph. When Tudor was making a big push into the market a few years back, they were adding a lot of dealer networks and boutiques, and they were coming up with a great marketing campaign. The Black Bay got introduced and it was all the rage. And this was one of the launches subsequently that really caught a lot of attention, and it really caught my eye as well. It has a uniquely 70s aesthetic, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos and reviews that tell you about the Monaco, Monte Carlo tie-in and how the vibe and the history tie very strongly to that. But even in today's day and age, it really does stand out as a unique and almost timeless design. It doesn't necessarily come off as a reissue of an old watch. I've always wanted one, and I finally got a chance to pick one up. This here is a 42mm case, and the lug to lug is right around 50mm, and the case is around 13mm. The lug width is 22mm. From a proportion standpoint, it is a slightly chunkier, larger watch, especially when you consider the typical Tudor slab style side profile that they do. 13mm by a chronograph standard is actually not that high. There are several current gen chronographs out there that are well above it, but due to the sort of flat side profile of the case, it does come off a little thicker than the measurement suggests. It does wear like a large watch. I think every collection needs to have one or two big sporty watches just to give a bit of variety and interest. Going over the dial, this is a very classic historic dial based on the original. They've done some minor fine-tuning, but my biggest appeal, which actually is interestingly a reason some folks have said as a negative, I love how flat this dial looks in person. We keep talking about three-dimensionality and depth of dial. I agree that we look for that a lot nowadays when we look at luxury watches. But to me, what makes this watch special, one of the big reasons, is just how flat this dial looks even with the applied markers. Its visual appeal really comes from how flat this dial is. Tones are muted. They are bright and cheerful, but they're not thickly laid on. The colors are not really shouty and loud. They're done elegantly. If you look at the center, it's not exactly white. It has a mild cream-like quality to it as well, and that really works with the orange and the blue tones that they have used. This is a really classic dial, and I believe it's really timeless interpretation of this watch. It is a screw down crown. The knurled effect on the sides and to the logo, to how it is sized and the grip you get on it, it's just perfect. It feels really good to use. The winding action is super smooth. So you have to unscrew the chronograph pushers as well. And now, from a functionality standpoint, yes, that does sound a little bit of a an overhead, but it does add to the kind of unique cool factor to it, and the action on it is a little soft. It doesn't have the really nice click sound you get from some of the more modern in-house movements. This here is ETA 289 series with a DD module on top, which I know is one of the criticisms this has received, but honestly that movement has been used a lot in luxury watches, and it's a really solid, fairly reliable movement, and I think it's perfectly fine at the price point. And you know, the watch is not really about the movement in this case, it's about everything else. The other standout feature is the edging on the bezel. This is again very well designed and implemented bezel. It looks superb in person, and it really does feel lovely to hold. This is an aluminum bezel, which I know is going to fade a little bit and might have a tendency to scratch compared to ceramic, but it does add a little bit to the vintagey charm of it. And this is a bi-directional bezel. It's a super quiet bezel. You cannot hear the click sound at all, which is interesting, but it does feel pretty good and solid and well made, so there's no doubts in the quality there. Overall fit and finish is all Tudor. The case profiles and the brushing and the finishing is almost standardized through their lineup, so you know what to expect. So this was one of the earlier watches in their release, and it kind of set the tone in terms of the lug shape, the edging, the brushing on it. And subsequently there have been so many black bay variations, and they all kind of have a similar case profile for the most part. I think this is pretty much the only chronograph by a major Swiss manufacturer right now that sits under 5 grand US, because the other really popular option is the Speedmaster, and I think the Speedmaster has crossed the 5k mark, and the IWC Pilot chronograph has also crossed the 5k mark. I think the Black Bay chronos just under 5, but I honestly believe this has a ton more personality than the Black Bay chronograph, and it's a lot more unique. Versatility in terms of working with some really cool straps, like this rally strap I have on here. So the watch comes with blue, orange and white NATO strap. This is a really cool summer look, and the spring bars are built into the strap, so it feels very secure, and it really looks fantastic on the watch, there's no doubt about it. And the bracelet is again a really high quality bracelet. It just feels very solid and well machined and well made. Tolerances are superb. However, it is a fairly heavy bracelet, and it's gonna add quite a bit of weight to the watch overall. Personally, I think this watch works a lot better on straps. Maybe minor criticism is yeah, if it were another shorter lug to lug, and maybe width wise and maybe even thickness wise, just a 1 millimeter squeeze in all directions might make it a little easier to wear and a little more maybe it'll have a little more broader appeal. As it stands, I highly recommend it for you know, being the chronograph in your collection. That's the quick review and overview on the Tudor Heritage Chrono. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and leave any comments and questions. Thanks again, and see you next time.